Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, March 7th, 2018, approximately 7 p.m. Please join Councilman Gibson for a moment of silence and a pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, which was a proclamation that was being mailed. So we'll skip that. Moving on to agenda item 4, citizens' comments. Here's the way citizens' comments will work. We're going to take first citizens who live within the actual city boundaries of Satellite Beach. Okay, and then I'll take whomever else would like to speak. Okay, Satellite Beach residents first, and the floor is open. Don't slam it. Anybody would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. You have to come to the mic. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name's Rita Merks. I live in Satellite Beach. I've been a resident for 26 years, going on 26 years of Satellite Beach. I'm concerned about the beach renourishment program and the contents that are in the sand that's being dumped and the impact on the environment and the marine growth, the marine, and then the birds and everything. I'm just concerned about it because it's such a lovely area, and once it's gone and tampered with, and you can't get it back. So that's why I'm here. I'm concerned about what's going on, and if you're doing any kind of studies to check it out, to make sure that it's not going to impact the little creatures that live there and the turtles. Because I did read an article about, the color of the sand. If the sand is too dark, it does impact the turtles. So there's a lot that I just was wondering if a study is being done, if anything is being done, just to see what happens. So anyway, thank you.
Floor is still open for public comment. Excuse me, Matt? No, the lady has spoken before.
My name is Michelle Collins Wagner. I've lived in Satellite Beach since 1956. I've watched the sand come and go without any help from anyone else except the ocean. If you want to spend money on doing something around this area, spend money on the Indian River Lagoon. The money that's wasted on the sand that comes and goes in that ocean could be much better spent. You have to be good stewards of the money that you are handling. Thank you.
Evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Don Norris. I'm a resident here in Satellite Beach, lifetime resident of Brevard County. Me, as well as several others in here, would like to ensure that a quality material that's being placed on the beaches is one of the most important and cheapest things here that the city of Satellite can do to protect the reef and ensure the beach is nice for its residents as well as our visitors. I would like to see a resolution from the city to independently test and monitor the quality of these beach projects that are going on now as well as the future. These tests should be thoroughly verified, that every aspect of the permit requirements are being met, and the tests should be conducted by an independent lab and not a lab that has several other contracts with the county currently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Kiesel. I live here in Satellite Beach on Coconut Street. I lived here in 1989 in Indian Harbor Beach, and I saw the beach grow and then dissipate. I saw it be replaced, again, naturally. What I see out there, I think, is a travesty. I think it is a huge waste of money. I'm concerned about the reef as well, and if you're concerned about the reef as much as I am, and most of the people in this room, you'll stop doing what you're doing. All you're going to do is ruin that beach. If you want tourists to come here, we need to have a beautiful, pristine beach. You're going to kill the reef. You're going to kill the marine life that exists out there. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. I'm a reasonable guy who looks at evidence. The evidence says that if you contribute to that, you're going to go down for it as well. We have a beautiful community. This is the nicest place in Brevard County to live. If I don't have to leave this island, I won't. I hate going over to the other side. I have Walmart and Publix, and everything I need is between those two. If you want what has happened to that river to happen to Satellite Beach, you need to stop right now. There's a nearshore reef that runs along our shore and is unique and a valuable resource. It should be protected and not buried. It is a place to fish, surf, study, observe, and relax, as we talk about in your dry sand usages. It's home to juvenile sea turtles, endangered species, and over 200 species of fish. It protects the shore by absorbing wave energy. It has been designated as an essential fish habitat. The Army Corps of Engineers has demonstrated over and over again they don't know what they're doing. Lake Okeechobee, the Everglades, New Orleans, Texas, what else do I need to point to? Don't be a contributing party to their incompetence, and they are. I would like to see a resolution to use city resources to end the current policy of widening the beach and burying the reef. You want to sustain the beach? Vegetation is the key. Again, I'm not a scientist, but I've been here since 1989, and anywhere that there's significant vegetation, there's still dunes and there's still beach. If that's what you want, and that's what I want, vegetation is your key. This resolution should include language that says we want to use the minimum amount of nourishment. My resolution says none. Necessary to protect the upland structures. And this material needs to be quality sand. Sand that this vegetation can hold, that it can maintain for a dune line. How long has this dune in A1A been intact? We're going to go ahead and ruin it. We're going to go ahead and give sand to other places in this community, in this state, that's going to go ahead and demise what we hold so dear to us. This is not a good idea, and you know it. This money that is being spent came from our pockets. It came from Brevard County. What they're worried about is tourist dollars. How many tourist dollars do we actually benefit from? Who are the real people that will benefit from this sand renourishment? It's the people that live on this beach, right on the beach, not on the west side of A1A. What you're doing is terrible to everybody else who lives in this community. Now, I know that Satellite Beach is not the entire Treasure Coast. But this is where you can make the difference, because you can only control, Mr. Catino, what you can control. Satellite Beach is what you can control. And if you say no here, that might be the catalyst for the rest of the Treasure Coast, the rest of the Space Coast, and the rest of the tourists to do the same. Don't be afraid to stand up and say no. Hey, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Podium's open.
John Fergus, 135 Maple. I did not come here expecting to speak, so this is extemporaneous. I've been involved with this project for over 20 years. Dominic and I went up to Jacksonville, had a long chat with the Corps back in the 90s. We had a series of problems. We have worm reef, that's valuable. We had nesting sea turtles, that's valuable. You either lose the reef or you lose the beach, unless you let the beach move. Trouble is, 20% of the city's tax base is east of A1A. And money is an issue. And if folks want testing done, I've been involved with Public Works doing some lab work. It doesn't come inexpensively. As far as I know, there's only 1 or 2 labs serving this area, and I am sure they're probably involved with the county, so I can't imagine a lab letting its results be skewed by whoever's employing it. Very complex issue. And the bottom line is the train left the station well over a decade ago. This is pre-baked in the cake. And even if the city said they wanted out, there'd still be sand dumped north of here, and it would drift south anyway. Or you can not put any sand. I know there's one house there that I'd say for sure by the end of the next winter season would not be standing anymore if it weren't for the sand and pushed up under it. Very complex problem, and something maybe people want to sit down and have a chat about or something, but coming to council and wanting something to happen this late in the game, it just doesn't work that way. Thank you.
Floor is still open. If I hear no further, I'm going to close it.
How's everybody doing? My name is Matt Fleming, 1777 A1A, south end of Satellite Beach. This is the 3rd City Hall meeting that I've been to. And if I could sum up the sentiment of people who are angry about what's happening to the beach, they are looking for the city to exercise its leadership in redesigning these projects so that they're not using dirt, so that they're using the minimum amount of nourishment material instead of the maximum, which the project coming next year is designed to do. It's going to dump 15 to 20 times more material on the beach than what we are seeing now, and there is no guarantee that it's going to be sand from offshore. It says it could be upland fill or shoal material. I have reached out to all of you. I sent emails. I have called Mayor Catino, was gracious enough to communicate with me. What I'm looking for is in the next City Hall meeting to have these 3 resolutions put on the agenda for an up or down vote. And is it true that you guys are doing testing right now on this material?
Matt, I'll tell you, please, yes. And here's what I think your best approach here. Do your presentation, okay, what you'd like, and then we will answer the audience after everybody has spoken.
I just want to make sure that any testing that's being done includes a few things. There's 2 kinds of material. They need to be tested separately. They're being mixed together with sand on the beach. If you just take sand off the beach and test it, you're not going to get an accurate result for silt content. You're not going to know if what's being put on the beach is meeting the permit specifications. There needs to be a test for the composition of the material to see if it has clays, biologicals, or other cementing components. And with that, I'll wrap it up. We will be here this next meeting. Obviously, the community is broadly concerned about this. They are paying attention to what's happening, and we would like to see the city of Satellite Beach really stand up, address this issue honestly, and exercise its leadership responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you. Further? Hearing none, citizens' comment portion is closed. I'll make a few comments, and then I'm going to turn it over to my city manager, and she will give you. We met with Surfriders a week or so ago to work on a proclamation together, sponsored by the city and Surfriders, concerning the beach. Presentation Courtney will tell you about. Also, this project has been going on for over 20 years. It's a county project, not a city of Satellite Beach. The city of Satellite Beach is restricted by the state of Florida laws. We're stuck in between putting sand or armoring the beach, the property owners of the property along the beachfront has the right to protect their property. So what does that mean? Their property is in danger, they can put seawalls. And you can shake your head and say, no, they can't. Guarantee you, they can. We've done the research. My city manager is well aware of this. She's actually an expert witness on the Burt Harris Act, which takes this in account. So, until state law is changed, we're stuck. We have to do the way I look at it, and I hear people say, you've lived here for a long time. I have too. I've lived here since 1956. I can tell you the beach was exceptionally wider until they put Port Canaveral and made it deeper. Okay? A lot of this comes about a lawsuit that was settled almost 20 years ago. We didn't get done because of the rock. The beach got done to the north and south of us. In the south, talking to the scientist, being the Archie Carr, has some of the best nesting in recent years on it. We don't. Is it because we don't have the sand for them to nest in? So we have to look at scientific facts. It's great to say we're putting 80 or 90% too much sand, but the issue is I'm not a scientist. Neither is, I think, most of the people in the room. There might be one or two. But we do research in this. We ask these questions. I have talked to many scientists. I sit on the National Estuary Board. I'm the chairman of the advisory committee for citizens on the National Estuary. I have access to a lot of people who are scientists. And you can ask 10 scientists, 9 of them will agree with you, and 1 will give you something different. But we as a city, we need to listen to the scientists because that's the best information we go by. If we don't put the sand, again, this is not a satellite beach project. This is a Brevard County project. If we don't, and the homeowners put up bulkheads on that beach, have you been to Miami Beach and seen what happens when bulkheads are there? Not what I want. And I can assure you, the reef that's showing now was never shown prior. I guarantee I grew up here all my life. The beach was much wider, and the reef that's there now is covered with sand. The next set of reef showed itself when sand washed away, and sand did replenish itself back then. But it's not replenishing it in the same way it did 20, 30, 40 years ago here, by no means. I want to tell you something to look at. Crotty Park. Everybody knows where it's at? Really nice park. The houses that are at Crotty Park to the north, did you not realize there was a road behind that? And there was another 125-foot lots to the east of that. It's plotted. It's called Oak Alley by the Sea. Look at it. So the ocean is coming up. If you believe that, something's happening because the beach is eroding away. Us as a city have an obligation to everybody in the city. We have an obligation environmentally, an obligation to the homeowners and to the laws of the state. And if we have to allow them to put bulkheads, I promise you're not going to have a beach. And they can do that. So let my city manager give a report on what we're doing and the proclamation we're working with surf riders to put together to maybe combat this down the road. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I just wanted to give some facts because there's a lot of rhetoric that's being used in some of the Facebook commentary. The beach renourishment funds, the local funds that are used to pay for that, come from the tourism development tax. And that is the bed tax that tourists pay when they come to visit here. So you all, from a local standpoint, do not pay for that. The Tourism Development Council doesn't want to buy beach renourishment projects. They would rather spend that money on advertising, on beach development projects, on parks, on all kinds of stuff. But they feel they have to because the beach is disappearing. So if we have other ways to deal with it, they would be happy not to spend that money. And so would we. None of us want to spend money on this. But the alternative at this point, from a state law perspective, is you either buy the property or you allow them to armor their property when they apply for it. So yes, we can say, no, you can't armor the property, and we will be in lawsuits and I assure you that, from here on out. And in our opinion, and I think most legal land use law attorneys will tell you the same thing, we will lose, because property rights in the state of Florida are paramount. We don't like it any more than you do. We are constantly trying to look at rezoning the beachfront to lessen the amount of development on that beach. I dare you to find another city that has 40% of their beach under public ownership like we do. If you drive down A1A and you see a noticeable difference when you drive into Indian Harbor Beach. They do not have the views that we have because we own 40% of our beachfront, and that was because of the county and city combined efforts over the years to purchase that property. The funds that we used to purchase that property on the state level have now dried up. There are no more funds that are budgeted for those purposes. In the last 5 years, we have been very much lobbying for that to return. And we thought that with the Amendment 1 passing, with the Preservation Act, basically, that we would get a lot of that money back in. But again, the state is now raiding that trust fund for other purposes, for their tax cuts. So yes, we have a lot of problems with the state. We work really hard at combating those problems. We think now also, and just kind of go back a little bit, our city in 2009 started sea level rise and climate change planning. Coastal erosion is part of that. So we have been also working to try to find a coastal retreat strategy to deal with what we're talking about and trying to buy up property to basically lessen the impact of development on the beach. The problem is we have a $12 million a year budget. Our millage rate is at 8.1. The maximum millage rate that we're allowed to have by state law is 10%, right? There is no millage rate high enough that we can legally put it to make the amount of money that it would cost to buy up the beach. It's impossible to do that with local funds. So we have to have a state or federal funding source for that. In recognizing that, and we have been lobbying for this for a while, we feel that with the current climate of climate change being more recognized and less fought over in terms of, state, and let's just discount federal right for now, but the state, we feel that there is a good timing at this point to begin lobbying with other lobbying groups such as Surfrider, and we're coming together to work on a resolution to try to get a funding source for coastal retreat, basically to purchase property. We are also asking the state to give us some relief from the Burt-Harris Act for coastal decisions in highly eroding areas. Because the problem that we have is you have to, a local government, whether it be county or city, has to, by law, give somebody reasonable use of their property. So we can't just say, sorry, we have too many condos on the beach, so you can't build anymore. That would be like you going to a neighborhood, a single-family neighborhood, and there's one lot in there, and you buy the lot, and you go to get a building permit, and the city go, you know what, we have too many single-family homes in that area, so we're not going to give you this building permit. So we can't do that. There's laws against that. And one of the worst, we have it even harder in the state of Florida because of the Burt-Harris Act. So if we downzone a property, let's say you have a property and it's zoned for multifamily, and we say, you know what, we're going to lessen the height from 65 feet to 20 feet. We have to pay the value difference in that height reduction.
Matt, no, excuse me. Matt, I'm going to have you remove, please. That's not proper procedure here. The city manager has the floor. You had your opportunity to speak under citizens' comments.
But I'll respond to that. The Burt-Harris absolutely applies to investment properties. In fact, that's usually the area that it's used the most, is developers use it when cities downzone their property. I have been an expert witness in at least 5 of those cases. So I think I would have a little bit more knowledge of that than most people. And yes, if you downzone a person's property, not only can they make that claim and file that claim in the court, we would end up getting a judgment that we would have to pay that difference, but not only do we have to pay our costs, but the attorney's cost for both sides. So it's definitely not weighted in the local government's favor. It's an issue that planners, and we have one of our consulting planners here, that we deal with all the time in terms of growth management in the state of Florida. It makes it very difficult for us in local government. So that is an issue, and we're trying to work on the state level to see if we can get some relief there in coastal retreat policy. It's a very complicated issue. And the cities and the county do not want more beach armoring. Beach armoring is ecologically devastating. It takes away all the sand for turtles. It removes the dune habitat for all the animals that live there. So we are stuck between, right now, purchasing property, armoring the beach, or nourishing the beach. And the state of Florida, for example, the last hurricane with Irma, issued emergency permits to St. Johns County for seawalls after that. It is an accepted statewide solution to erosion. So until we change those statewide rules and thinking, we are stuck here. So the characterization of the cities and the county as derelict leaders, as not caring about the beach, as not being good stewards of money, is grossly incorrect. There is no city council in this county, or even in the state of Florida, that cares more about the environment than this one. There is none. We're putting solar on City Hall. They have a sustainability board. We're being recognized statewide for the work we're doing with climate change. I'm making a presentation to the Florida Defense Alliance about what we're doing on climate change. So we have a good track record there. If we didn't have to re-nourish the beach, trust me, we don't want to spend that money any more than you do. We have no desire to do that, but we don't want armoring more. Okay? We did commission a test for the sand, largely to test for pollutants, because we wanted to address the consistent Facebook rhetoric that I've heard about it polluting the beach. We have the report that's being analyzed right now, and when we have that done, we will put it on our website for the public to see. That cost $8,000 for that test. The city has no interest in replicating a test that the county does constantly, because we don't see the county as an enemy. The county has a natural resources department that's literally statewide recognized in being great stewards of the environment. They have absolutely no interest in doing the wrong thing. There's no reason for us to question them in whether the tests are faked or wrong. It doesn't make any sense, because it's never been that way. We have no reason to believe they're doing the wrong thing.
How do we contact the county?
Excuse me.
I can give you the
We'll
information.
get the information.
Absolutely.
Please don't blurt out.
Yeah, so that's the other thing too, is all of the public hearings on these issues are well advertised. I mean, you just have to search them out. The city and the county have websites with all of our public hearings on there. The county has a natural resources department page that has all of their contact information. You just got to Google them. And you just call them and you say, hey, can I have the test results? They'll email them to you in 5 minutes. They're very open and transparent. They have no reason to lie. They don't want to have anything wrong with our beach. They love the beach. They've been working to protect the beach. That's their whole purpose of existing as a department, is to protect the environment. And they're very passionate people. They have no reason to do wrong things here. The idea that this is being done to protect rich people is completely incorrect. We know that it's not feasible to let buildings fall in the ocean here, because that's not going to be what's happened. What will happen is they'll armor, and that's what we're trying to prevent. Additionally, we own 40% of our beach, so we are also looking at Pelican Beach Park falling in the ocean, Hightower Park falling in the ocean, Crowdy Park falling in the ocean. So these are all parks and properties that we all enjoy, and we have spent many, many, many years acquiring them over the years. Would we like to acquire more? Absolutely. So when we get these strategies put together, trust me, we'll be calling you and asking you to make those phone calls on the state level, because that's where we have to bring the fight. That's where the fight is.
Courtney, can you explain, do you have any idea on how those tests turned out so far? What you mentioned.
So the pollutant test was fine, and I think there's some disparity for the Blue Goose site, and then the other site was perfectly fine for grain size. So that's the way I read it, though, and I'm not a scientist, so I have to send it off to somebody who can explain it to me, which is what we're doing now.
And what we're doing with surf riders,
Right.
we're putting a proclamation, would you want to?
Well, we have a draft resolution that they're reviewing now, but it's basically to request the state to develop a coastal retreat funding source, as well as basically question the wisdom and long-term impacts of continuing local governments to forcing us to approve building permits in areas that shouldn't be approved. And that's really the bottom line.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, any first comments from council?
I just want to make one comment.
Okay.
And I've said this before. Sorry, I've got a cold, so bear with me. In regards to the seawalls, if you guys want to go and see the effects of what the seawalls have on the beaches, our beach alone at Elwood, which is my beach, you can go look at it right now, and you can see that the condo to the north of that property that we own, which is over 2 acres, and the condo to the south, both have seawalls. We're about 8 feet behind that seawall right now, and that's with the sand that's been put on there. So had we not had any sand on there at all, not a scientist, but safe to say it probably would have regressed even further. So we've lost a significant amount. You're welcome to go walk up to that beach right now and go and check it out. I can show you a video on Facebook that shows just how bad seawalls will be for anyone that doesn't have a seawall. And this is important because there are already condos that have seawalls. We don't want any more seawalls. I mean, quite frankly, I don't want anyone on the beach either, but they're there. So
Which building?
the blue glass building, and then the buildings to the, I don't know what they're called.
There's
The
actually,
pretty blue glass.
you can see if you do it,
The white one.
Yes.
if you walk from Pelican to Hightower, which I do sometimes, it's a good 3 mile. If you walk down that, you'll see a number of seawalls while you're down there, and most of our property is not seawalled, but there's condos that have done that. You will see a noticeable difference for any property that's around that seawall that isn't seawalled is grossly eroded more, because that's what it happens is the waves hit that seawall and then come around it, and so that gets even worse. So that's number one problem. And then also it's if you look in front of those seawalls, there's nothing there. There's no sand. I mean, there's devoid of any vegetation, anything else, which is what we're trying to prevent. And we don't want that. You know?
Right. One thing we are doing, we are working with surf riders. Again, like I said earlier, we did have a very nice meeting with them, and we're going to work together with surf riders to put together a resolution that has some substance to go to the state with to change it. We need to change the laws in order for this to work. If not, we're going to be in trouble, because obviously at some point, how much sand are you going to dump? And for how long? And we don't want, I mean, I've lived throughout my life, I can tell you, the beach was much different. It was much different up in Cocoa Beach, Patrick Air Force Base, it was different. But with what we have to work with right now, you tell me, seawalls or no seawalls, and because our hands are tied, and it's proof, I can prove it to you at the end of DeSoto Parkway, there was a house that fell in. We didn't issue the building permit. We got sued and lost pretty quickly. So we don't like putting them there. I can tell you, I don't like building on the beach. It was never there. But we can't just arbitrarily do it because of the laws that are out there. So, Courtney, we'll have a resolution with Surfrider here in the near future.
We're hoping, yeah, I got some comments from our attorney that we have to clean up a little bit. They sent it off to their upper groups to review. And then we're hoping, and the difference, I want to make sure that we're clear, though, that we're working with them on a statewide managed coastal retreat policy, but that in no way implies, and I want to be clear, that Surfrider favors beach renourishment, because that is not the case. I know that last time my comments were interpreted that way, and I want to make clear, they are not happy about beach renourishment, trust me. And we have been working with them for about 5 years on grain size, and we will continue to take their advice when they come to us with a problem, because we've always done that. And the county has always responded. So if they come to us and say, hey, this is bad, we need to improve it, we go to the county and we support that position. But I want to make sure that, they are working on this retreat policy with us, but again, at the same time, they're definitely not happy about beach renourishment.
John mentioned the fact that, we went to Jacksonville to the Army Corps of Engineers meeting. And I can tell you, there were 13 different agencies sitting in that room, and each one of those agencies had a different criteria of how they handled the situation that we have in this 12-mile area. And the bottom line comes down to that we've been renourished to the north, and we've been renourished to the south. This is a sustainability issue for our city, for Indian Harbor Beach, and for part of Indialantic. It's a sustainability project because the erosion that you're seeing by the seawalls when you walk up and down this beach, that erosion is going to be multiplied heavily when we have storms because of the renourishment that's already occurred to the north and south of us. We will have more serious erosion without this project. And I will tell you, I've lived in Florida since 1976. I lived in Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach up near Jacksonville. I watched sand being pumped onto the beach up there. I lived in Fort Lauderdale. I watched sand being pumped onto the beaches in Fort Lauderdale. I've been to St. Augustine when they've been pumping the inlet there and pumping sand on the beach. The water is turbid. It doesn't matter whether you dump sand out of dump trucks or you pump it from the ocean. There is turbidity that occurs when a renourishment project goes on. That turbidity goes away. The glasses with the sand and the dirt, the sand that had the clear water was sand that was dumped on this beach probably 5 years ago. So the turbidity went away. The grains that were in that glass were the same grains that were probably the same type of sand that was there before that renourishment project. We have been great stewards of our beaches here in Satellite Beach, but we have to continue to be great stewards for our beaches because armoring is not the answer. And that's not the direction I want to go in. I'm looking to continue working with the county and the state of Florida to make sure that we're getting the best product that we can get, the best renourishment project that we can have, because that's what's going to maintain our beaches. That's what's going to maintain the turtles continuing to come here, because I can guarantee you, if we have armored beaches, we will see no sea turtles here in Satellite Beach. And that's reality. So we have to all look at this as a compromise on how we're going to efficiently do this. And I think working with the surf riders and working with how we're going to sustainably do this in the state of Florida and have them come up with some policies, how we go forward on this is extremely important for all of us. But this project is a sustainability project as far as I'm concerned for our city.
Okay. Any other comments?
I was like, real quick, I would first like to say is since I've been on this council, I have never been asked at any point to talk about sand, or the county asked me for my input, or for the county to tell me to support them or donate something to them, because this is a county project. Between the county, the state, and the Corps of Engineers, this is their project. While I appreciate all of you being here, and I think that's great, but what I would go back and say at the same time, show me a show of hands individually from all of you, how many of you have gone to a county meeting just like you are here tonight and state your purpose? How many of you done that? So other than Matt, so we got 2, 3, and one of them's here with me from the city, right? So again, I appreciate you all being here, but this is a county matter. And by the most part, what you're doing here tonight, and I do appreciate that, would in my eyes, carry more weight and be more helpful if you go to the county and tell them about their project. Because, and I know this because I've talked to Matt, and I've sent him an email, and I asked him the same question. Who did you contact from the county? Who did you contact from the Corps of Engineers, and who have you contacted from the state concerning this going on, and what were the results and what were the answers that you got back from them? And he admitted to me that he's had a problem trying to get a hold of anybody. So again, while I do appreciate your support here, I say it to a point that it's almost lost because this started so many years ago, and as you know, the government, these things are in the work. But if you really want to make your point known, you need to carry this enthusiasm, and you need to carry your support from every one of you to go to that county meeting, to contact your county commissioners, to contact the state, to write your letters to all your state representatives and tell them how you feel. Because I don't get a vote in this. I don't get a vote on whether we get sand or not. I don't get a vote on whether your tax money is getting put on the beach. I don't get a vote for that. So that's why I say I appreciate you being here to Satellite Beach. But really, in my eyes, the concept is there's not a whole lot I can do about that. And again, because it's a county project and you obviously have some numbers, I say take your numbers and take them where the project is coming from and lay it in there.
Excuse me. I appreciate it.
And I get that. You're looking for my support. And like I said, when I asked you how many people have contacted their county representative.
We're here. I think.
Well, county representatives is what I'm asking. Again, this is a county project.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't allow you to have the floor. No, I'm not. So, we will reopen the floor at another meeting, but citizens' comment portion, when I closed it and we went into contact, we will have this resolution, when it's finished, it will be posted on our website. It'll be out here on the board, that when we will bring this as a agenda item.
Well, I think, let me just clarify too. It is a county project, but if there's issues that we can help with like the quality of the sand and stuff like that, we've done that, and we've worked with the county to improve that. So those are things that we can do. I think what Councilman Osmer was saying is it is a project that's been in the works for a very long time. It's an enormous amount of money has been spent on engineering and permitting. It's been funded already. The funding allocations have been put in place. The likelihood that the project stops is very slim. However, we can do what we can on the city level to guide the project to be better. So if there's ideas on that in that respect, we will be happy to take them and run with them, because we've done that in the past. So that's definitely something we'd be happy to do.
I can, on that, Courtney, the gentleman, and I'm having a senior moment now, not Virginia Barker, but the gentleman, Mike McQuarrie, right, excuse me. So I've called him probably enough times that he doesn't want to, probably has me on his phone that when it leaks up my number, he doesn't answer it anymore. But I've called him a number of times and go, give me a report on the testing of the sand, numerous times. I've talked to other scientists who are in this area, FIT and so forth, also on the quality of the sand. And I've gotten some really good reports. Now, I got to believe somebody in the process. And I'm really believe these guys are really good at the county. Virginia Barker, you go look at her education. I don't know why you work for Brevard County, but that's another story. Many degrees from Duke. They're really smart people, and I think they really care about the project. And McQuarrie is one of the leaders in beach renourishment in the country. So his reports to me that the loads of sand, for what they tell me, and again, I'm not an expert on this, exceed their minimum requirements. And they only had one load that was 1% under it. Only one test that came out. The rest of them has come out more. So I check with them. I know I do personally check with them a lot. and we're in contact with them.
The other thing too is the county has, for 10 years, looked into property acquisition as well. So that's not, has never, that is the preferred alternative, and it always has been. And in their minds, it's definitely the preferred alternative as well. And so they did a study back in 2009 that we're trying to resurrect on the methodology to see if there's a way to locally fund that in some ways. So those are the things that the county has always done. So the perception that the county is an enemy is not true. It's not the reality. So what I can say is that Mr. McGarry, as well as the city, you know, he'll be available anytime you want to answer your questions, gain your input, and see if we can make the project better. He has always been that way. So if there's a time that you all want to meet with that, we can make it happen. So that's something we can also do. Okay.
Mark, I think one more from the council, and then we'll...
Yeah, just one historical thing. It's called the Mid-Reach, and the reason it's called the Mid-Reach is it's an area that was designated by the county 15 to 20 years ago where we could not put sand on there. Not we, meaning the county. They did Cocoa Beach, Courtney County hit on this, they did Melbourne Beach and South and that sort of thing. The reason why it was held up and the reason why it's taken this long to get this sand here that we're seeing now is they studied it. And the contact again is Mike McQuarrie. He is the person that actually stood up here at the council meeting with a room full of people who were wondering how fast we're going to get sand on our beach. And Mike had to take the flack for it. It's probably going to be 5 to 10 years. Well, it's actually been a lot longer than that because of the studies and everything. So I had to go to Washington, D.C., to the Army Corps of Engineers and everything. So this has been studied. So my point with all this is the Mid-Reach is that area that they really designated a lot of study to go into before they did this, number one. And number two, there's documents out there that you can either get from the county, Mike McCurry, or you can get from the Army Corps of Engineers that show how this process has been protracted for 10 to 15 years. So I think you guys are doing the right thing, but there's a lot of history you haven't looked at. You're looking at today and today alone, which is nothing wrong with that. You see what's going on out there. But for somebody that's been on council for as long as I've been, this has been going on for 10 to 15 years. And I will say it one more time. 10 to 15 years ago, we had a whole room full of people who were saying, why can't we get sand on our beach right now? And Mike McCreary was saying, you may not get sand for 10 to 15 years. And that's how long it's taken. So it's been really studied very well. But do your historical homework, not that you haven't, but really look at those documents and see what's there. And as Courtney said, Mike's your contact on this because he is as strong an environmentalist as you can have. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And procedure from here, our city manager will have the resolution completed at the time that it goes to our city attorney, and we make sure that it is proper and has some teeth to it because we care about it. I guarantee I do. I've made my living on the water for my whole life. I'm a fishing guide. I've made on here for over 45 years. And I've seen a lot of changes, and I sure don't want it to be messed up. So we're trying to work in the law and the boundaries. And we believe you. I don't like sand, but, you know, we have some things we've got to work out before we don't. You know, we can change that. And we're working, I can tell you, we're working on it. And so it will be another agenda item, and on an agenda item, it is opened up for public comment differently, and you respond back and forth from the podium, okay? So please, again, from the council, thank you for coming. I can tell you 90% of the meetings, there's 2 people in the audience, okay? 90% of the meetings. So we appreciate you caring enough and taking the time to come here. We care about it too, or I guarantee you, the 3 of us here has been on the longest. One of our main things was to buy this beachfront. And I grew up here, there was nothing on this beach. So we care about it as much as you, and thank you very much for coming. And we'll answer any of your questions anytime. Our numbers are all posted. Matt's called me many a times, have no problem with anybody calling. I know my number. Courtney will talk to anybody at any time. And we'll arrange for you to talk to the county if you would like that too. Okay? So thank you, everybody, for coming and caring about it, and we appreciate it. At this time, I'm going to move on to agenda item 12, which I apologize, which was time specific for 7:30. So we'll take that now with everybody, if that's okay. Discuss, take action on audit report for FY 16-17 by Carr, Griggs, and Ingram. And I'm sorry, time certain at 8:50.
Not a problem. Good evening. I'm Yvonne Claiborne with Carr Riggs and Ingram. I'm the audit manager or audit partner in charge of this engagement. And with me this evening, I have David Knowlton, who is the audit in charge for this engagement. And we're presenting your annual financial audit report for September 30, 2017. As we start to move into this document, you're used to the annual financial report that we give you. Along with that, you've got what's called the required communications that includes all kinds of things like whether or not there were consultations or issues during the audit process. And that's just for your edification. The document this year is a complete, comprehensive annual financial report, and you'll hear us refer to it as a CAFR, C-A-F-R. A comprehensive annual financial report. Some governments prepare it just so that you have this additional information, but in addition to what you normally see in the document, they've added an introductory section that'll include a transmittal letter from your finance department and from your city manager and assistant city manager that kind of gives some overview, and it also provides you with a statistical section, which is in addition to what you normally see, and the statistical information is 10 years worth of information. I'm telling you all this because this document has been submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association as part of a certificate program, award program, where there's a certificate in achievement for, certificate for excellence in financial reporting, similar to the budget award that you are already receiving. The city management felt this year they wanted to go ahead and take that next step with the financial report. We acknowledge that we were shocked that the city wanted to take on that challenge in the initial year that you were joined by Brittany. It's a tremendous amount of work that went into this document. Getting 10 years worth of historical information is not easy because not all of it comes from these financial reports. In fact, a lot of it comes from various other sources. So for your finance department and your city management to take on this role, we commend them. We couldn't believe they put it together in the time frame they did, and we put a lot of time and energy into it. And I know, feelings were not spared as we were very critical because, again, we want you to get this certificate and this award. So that said, moving on to the award, the audit presentation itself. The audit report on page 11 is an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of audit assurance you can receive. That indicates that the financial report that's contained herein provides you the financial information as of and for the year ended September 30, 2017 in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles under the GASB. Again, this is what they call a yellow book report. It's provided under the government auditing standards. It has all the extra bells and whistles and compliance testing that goes along with the government financial statements. There was only one new accounting standard this year of true significance, but it did not impact the city of Satellite Beach related to financial statement disclosures related to tax abatement programs. Next year, there will be a change in the accounting and financial reporting for the other post-employment benefit plan, liability, similar to what you went through last year with the pension liability. They're going to go back and recalculate the other post-employment benefit liability under, similar to what they did with the pension, where they're going to have everybody calculate it the same way. It's going to change some of the the references in terms of now it's called another post-employment benefit obligation. It's going to be another post-employment benefit liability, just like your pension liability, and it's going to have a lot more footnote disclosures and required supplementary information. So again, we're going to expand that disclosure, and it's going to be hopefully provide more consistency from year over year for all city governments. In the compliance section of your document, starting on page 131, is the audit report on your tests of our tests of compliance based on government auditing standards and over your internal controls over financial reporting. We had one comment this year as far as the internal controls over financial reporting related to revenue receiving and reconciliation. Again, as the city has moved to address previous year's comments and reorganized how things were doing, what we were looking at in the revenue receiving process is you have two sites that specifically handle revenue receiving and reporting into their financial systems separate from how it is from finance. In both of those cases, those departments had the ability to do voids. We didn't find anything, any issues with those voids, but because there was no independent revenue or reconciliation process on the back end, there was always that opportunity for something to go wrong and not get discovered in a timely manner. So in this case, we identified that as an opportunity for the city to go back, and they've already taken steps to close that gap on that control system. Again, we didn't find any issues when we went back and looked at it. We just identified it as an opportunity for the city to improve the system. We had a comment last year related to bank reconciliations that was remediated and corrected in the current fiscal year. We did have the city's legal level of budgetary control is at the department level. In the compliance world, it doesn't matter if it's material or not. If there's a compliance issue related to budgetary over expenditure, we have to report it. In this case, it was caused by a year-end accrual. It had nothing to do with the city going out and spending more money than they were supposed to. There was a year-end accrual. That's an accounting adjustment. It's an accrual adjustment that didn't get taken into consideration when the budget amendment was put into play. We have to report it, but again, we don't see it as anything other than timing. It was all money that was currently budgeted. It just, the timing of the accrual impacted the department level budgetary overspending. You had plenty of money in your budget, but on a department level, it just hit one of the two of the departments by a very minor amount. The other thing we pointed out is, as you well know, and as we've talked about already this evening, the city had the misfortune, and all of us did, of getting bookended by hurricanes in the current fiscal year. You have a general fund reserve policy for emergency appropriations. In this case, this is probably the first time since I've worked with the city that you actually had to tap into that emergency reserves. But again, now that that emergency reserve has been tapped into and there's no real guarantee of if and when FEMA is going to get around to the reimbursement process, it has put some it had an impact on the financial numbers as they played out. In this case, we've just identified it because it provided for a trend, because you were already dealing with some issues on trying to deal with what you were going to do with your CRA, and now you got bookended by the hurricane, so you just got kind of like the perfect storm, for lack of a better terminology, and I apologize for the pun. But in this case, the city, I know you're going to have a long presentation about it tomorrow. I know you're doing everything you can on it. Again, we just noted because there were just enough trends that we wanted to bring it to the attention of the financial statement users that there's action item to be done, or action to be done here, and the city is taking action on it. With that, there's really, the information is fairly consistent with what you've seen in the prior years. The financial, the deficit and net position, again, on the statement of net position on page 26 and 27, again, is created by that pension liability that's on a pay-as-you-go basis. So that's really what that number means in financial terms is the pension benefits are going to be paid with future tax dollars, which is expected. And you're not going to try to fund a pension liability now by taxing your taxpayers now for a pension payout that's not going to happen for 10, 15 years. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you very, very much. Questions from council?
Yvonne, you guys do a great job for us all the time, and we appreciate you watching out over us and watching out for us. Thank you.
At this time, open up for public comment. Hearing no public comment, back to council.
You need a motion for...
We need a motion to accept it.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer. I have a second by Vice Mayor, I heard Vice Mayor Montanaro. Further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes. Thank you very, very much, as
Thank you.
always.
And on
Appreciate it.
behalf of my team, I would like to thank staff for their support during this process. Nobody likes it when the auditors are here, and you guys make us feel more welcome than some.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, Brittany, Stan, thank you guys very, very much for your hard work.
And thank
you.
Debbie also, please.
I will.
And this is the first CAFR the city's ever done.
Yeah.
Brittany did that her first year here, so I just wanted to give her a kudos for that. And then I also just wanted to clarify for the community, tomorrow night, we have a budget workshop at the city council, and we'll be laying out the problem that we're having with reserves due to the hurricanes and state-level changes to pension laws. So, and then as well as the upcoming November $25,000 homestead exemption that will apply to about 25% of the population, but will affect us by about $600,000 for a $12 million budget. So, not that I have a problem with that. But we will be laying out that problem, and we will be laying out some recommendations for the replenishment of the reserves. And then we also have a budget advisory committee that we're trying to populate right now, so if there's anybody that lives in the city of Satellite Beach that has an interest in applying for that, we'd appreciate your support and your willingness to serve. So.
Thank you. We just ask council at this time, does anybody need a break? Or you want a break? Okay. We'll take a 5-minute recess until 8:10, and then we're going to come back so we can get the guys home, because I know they want to get back to school tomorrow, and we'll take those. Thank you. I'll recall the council meeting in the city of Satellite Beach approximately 8:15. Moving on to agenda item 8, discuss take action on creation of a junior sustainability board. I think, Nick, are you the, Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Nick. All right, so we have an item on the agenda tonight for the creation and the funding for a junior sustainability board, where the funding will be a grant application to the National Estuary Program. Through the NEP, we'll try to get funds to create environmental education in the form of a junior sustainability board. And we have the Delora Junior Sustainability Board here with us today, so I'd like to just thank them, if you guys would like to join me in thanking them just for being out here. And working with Delora, we've managed to partner on this project as, you know, kind of part of our sustainability initiatives, and hopefully we'll see this grow and continue to be an addition to Satellite High School as well in the future, if this proves successful. So what we're asking that you approve is the creation and the funding through the NEP grant. If we can get the grant, we'll use it for this.
Thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to authorize the creation of a junior sustainability board at Delora Middle School and an application to the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program small grant program for funds to support the board projects.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilwoman Gibson.
Sorry, I have to correct that.
Further
real quick.
discussion from council?
I just need to correct that real quick. The motion should include an annual budget of $2,000 with the possibility of receiving grant funds, because we do have funds in the recycling fund that we would apply anyway. So they will have money regardless, but we will try to backfill that with grant funds.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to include the $2,000 that we have, that we would use from the recycling trust fund.
Thank you.
And whatever grant funds come after.
Appreciate it. Further discussion from council? Hearing none, open up for public comment on agenda item 8.
If you would like to speak now.
I think it would be good to introduce the students.
Yeah.
We're going to make you do it anyway at some point. So.
This is part of
Gotta get used
how
to
that
it,
works.
We, Delora Middle School, are in full support of the initiative to create a junior sustainability board utilizing the Delora student body, some of which are in attendance with us tonight. These students have been recommended by their teacher and are the first group selected to serve on the board. With the guidance of the City of Satellite Beach and representatives from Delora Middle School, the Junior Sustainability Board will create projects concentrated on educating others about sustainability by their actions and civic involvement. It is with great excitement that our school and the Satellite Beach community join in an effort to emphasize a centralized focus on the importance of sustaining the Indian River Lagoon and improving the lives of Satellite Beach residents. And we truly appreciate your support with this project. And with our Junior Sustainability Board, I'd like to ask our students to please stand and be recognized, and thank you so much for serving, and thank you, City of Satellite Beach, for recognizing the Junior Sustainability Board.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it very much.
All right.
Floor is open on this agenda item. Hearing none, back to council. Thank you very much for participating. Nick, thank you for getting it together. To the students, the faculty there, to Mr. Pruitt, tell him thank you. So to tell you a little bit about the grant actually comes to me, but I have to abstain from the grant because it's part of our city. I'm the chair of the estuary committee, so they already told me I had to make sure I didn't vote on these for my own city. So I think you'll be doing just fine on this. So, Nick, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I
Appreciate
think we have a few more.
We are continuing
Stay
here.
seated.
Okay, Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
I'll put you down as abstained, correct?
No, I can vote on this. I can't vote for the grant.
No worries, okay.
Thank you.
And Mayor Patino?
Thank you, yes. Okay, moving on to agenda item 9, discuss take action on the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program Small Grant Applications.
Yeah, get out while you can.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And just in case anybody wanted to know about the Junior Sustainability Board, we're going to be starting meetings,
Okay,
and they will be free before this meeting.
thank you, parents, appreciate it.
I'll be in touch. Thanks again so much.
Okay,
So the first one that we would like to talk about, and the set of 3 that you're approving, is the Florida Friendly Landscaping Seminar. Then there's the invasive plant, and then there's the native plant. These different grants are going to be part of our sustainability initiatives, and they'll be looked after by myself. The Florida Friendly Landscaping Seminar has been a staple in Brevard County since 2001. It has occurred time and time again, with some years missing, and has occurred consecutively for the past 7 years. It is always a success. Involves the National Estuary Program itself as one of the speakers that give updates on the lagoon, as well as UF IFAS, where a variety of speakers, typically Sally Scalera, will talk, giving information about how to create healthy soils and things of that nature, as well as other speakers. Myself, I've been a speaker at this event before. It's a really great event, and there are usually between 300 and 400 people that attend the event. Every resident in Melbourne and Palm Bay that get a water bill will get an invitation to the event, so it goes out to around 50,000 people. Typically, people that go repeat. There's usually repeat customers. So we're looking for funds to continue this project, and we're applying to the NEP to get the funds to do that, to rent the space, provide some basic amenities that allow the project to be successful. And there's no match required on any of these grants, but there is enough match that doubles the amount that's being asked for. So we have a really good chance of getting selected. So if there's any questions on that grant, I'll take questions on that, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Go ahead, they got to vote on each one.
we got to
Right, okay.
Okay. At this time, council comments on agenda item 9.
I'll make a motion to authorize staff to submit an application to the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program Small Grant Program for funds to continue the Florida Friendly Landscape Seminars.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer.
Yes.
Thank you. Open up for public comment on agenda item 9. Hearing none, back to council. Council comments? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 10, discuss take action on the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program small grants to seek funds to create an invasive species tree replacement program.
So with this program, we're going to reach out to 20 residents and provide funds to replace an invasive tree that's removed on their property. So it's a requirement to have invasives, removed for Brazilian pepper, Australian pine, and Melaleuca. Those are the ones that was installed by the current administration previously and has been enforced through code enforcement. We seek to continue that program in the future, but in order to do so, we're going to take the first step and apply for this grant so that we can remove carrot woods, because carrot woods are Category 1 invasive, and they're very prolific in the city. They seed naturally through birds, and you all nod your heads because you all know.
Every day.
The main idea is that a resident will be given the opportunity to apply to the city for funds to replace that tree that they remove at their own expense. So if you remove your carrot wood, we want to reward you by giving you the option to replace it with a native. And the cost of $200 can afford an individual to buy 2 green buttonwood trees, for example, at the cost of around $100 each. We did change the funds a little bit so that it's $20 residents at $200 each. We will then have enough funds to create a small PSA video with Bounce for Earth, and have enough funds to transport the plants to the locations, as well as do site visits and things of those natures. I'll oversee the project, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you.
I have a question. They're going to remove the tree. We're not paying for that.
Their own expense.
$200 for 2 trees is a lot of money. I mean, are we planting huge trees?
Oh, fully grown trees. They have to remove a 10-foot or taller carrot wood to be part of the program.
I'll tell you, I think it sounds great, but I can tell you from experience here, unless they're going to be out there watering that thing every day, it's going to not survive. I think we would be better off planting smaller trees. I mean, to put a tree that big into somebody's yard here and expect it to live is being very wishful. I think we need to look at, I'm all in favor of all of this. I think we need to be looking at maybe, $45 to $50 trees that are a little bit smaller and probably have a propensity to live, in this environment, because people aren't going to go out there and water it every day, Nick. I mean,
Not the bigger the tree, the better the survival is.
no, it's the opposite. The smaller the tree, the better the survival is.
In the city, we
Yeah.
try to get as big a tree as possible so they survive.
And my worry is too, from this, you pull somebody's tree out that's a shade tree blocking them from commercial structure or something like that, are they going to expect a tree of almost equal size that you're taking out? So to get them, I think, to conform a little bit, I think it needs to be of similar.
So that was part of the reasoning for the tree. And I understand
again,
that. I do understand it.
If John would like to back me up on this, the requirements for, no, you wouldn't. So there are, I got it, don't worry. So there are certain requirements for the number of trees per square foot. So if you removed an invasive tree that was counted in that, you would need to replace a similar tree. So that was the reason for the height requirement, or at least the height requirement for the removal. So if it's over 10 foot, we feel that that's worth removing and then replacing it with a tree of equal size.
I'm not, I can tell you.
You're just curious about it.
I've planted more plants on that yard on DeSoto over there that were bigger plants that did not fare well. The littler ones had a better chance of survivability. And I'm not talking, I don't want to put something real small in somebody's yard. We need to put something in there that's feasible. But if they're not going to go out and water it, you cannot put a tree that big in the ground and not water it, it will die.
And the same thing applies for a small tree as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we could have that in the contract, that
We
if
need to
it's
address it. It needs to be addressed because.
in the application, they have to agree to watering it, and if they don't water it, we can fine them as part of the contract if we needed to. No, of course, it's
Well,
not, okay.
this is the thing, because this is just a grant application, so when we get the program
There we
developed,
go.
we'll bring it back to you.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's
on
get
that
through
note,
this
I will
part.
make a motion to
Yes.
authorize staff to submit an application to the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, small grant program for funds to create an invasive tree replacement program.
Second.
Have a motion
Thank you,
by
Courtney.
Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Gibson. Further discussion from council?
No.
Hearing none, move it to public comment on agenda item 10.
John Fergus, 135 Maple. My wife and I have done a lot of tree planting. And I will go one step beyond what Dominic said. It's not just that the survival of the large ones is questionable. What's happened is you have a tree that spent years in a pot. You cut the pot away and the roots are root bound. It's root bound. Not only is there a high probability, increased probability they'll die, you put it in the ground and it's going to sit there and look stupid for 5 years before it really begins to go. It's got to get its roots out. And so all the activities taken care of underground. So it isn't that they're going to have a tree that's going to grow right away. It's just going to sit there. you put in a smaller tree, and I'm not talking a 3-footer, but, something with a reasonable trunk width, that then, again, it'll take maybe a year or two for it to get established, and then it'll start to grow. The point is, 10 years down the road, you may have a dead tree. If it did survive, you're going to have the other trees probably going to be just as big anyway. And so you want to be real careful how you're doing this. You may want to talk to some folks, Maple Street natives and others, to get a better sense for, and not just necessarily natives, people that do a lot of tree planting, to figure how you're going to do this, because it'd sure be a shame to have somebody cut down a 6-inch, 10-inch diameter carrot wood and put something in, and a year or two later, it's dead. That won't sit well with people. So just a caution. This is not something just to brush off and blow off.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Public comment still open? Hearing no further. Council? Hearing none.
I think, Courtney, this is the grant. When we get to the program, we can talk about all this stuff.
Okay. Any further? Lenore?
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 11, discuss take action on the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program small grant application to seek funding to create a native landscape program.
Thank you, Council. So this is very similar to the last one, and it does lean more towards the smaller plants angle. So this one is specifically for native plants and people that want to create native landscapes at their homes. There is no invasive removal requirement for this program. This program requires that they create a design and have that as part of the application, so the size of the project is within the scope. The cost would be the same. The amount the residents would get would be the same. However, we would say that as part of that 200, they need to install a rain barrel and have that system feed the irrigation to that native planted area. There's a lot of examples of that in the community where people have done those types of things, and I think that if we require them to have that rain barrel irrigation as part of it, watering will be more easily available for the resident to continue to do so to help for the health of the plants. But the grant is pretty much the same, and again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay. Question?
I'll make a motion to
Thank you.
authorize staff to submit an application to the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program Small Grant Program for funds to create a native plant landscaping program.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion about the grant application? Council? Okay, hearing none, open up for public comment. Hearing none, back to council.
Nick and I already talked about this one.
This is on a grant. Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Moving on to agenda item 13, I'll open up a public hearing on ordinance 1152. Kim?
1154.
1154. Thank you for correcting me.
An ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, regarding communication facilities and public rights-of-way, creating a new Article 4, Chapter 62, Satellite Beach Code of Ordinances, to be entitled Communications Facilities and Public Rights-of-Way, providing findings and intent, providing definitions, providing for registration of communications services providers, providing rules and regulations for communications services providers, wireless service providers, and small wireless services providers and their facilities, providing duty to notify, providing for revocation, suspension, and termination, providing appeals process, providing for insurance and indemnification, providing for construction bond, providing for abandonment, providing for pass-through provider fees for use of city utility poles, providing for reservation of rights and remedies, repealing Article 3, Chapter 62, Satellite Beach City Code, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, to second reading of ordinance number 1154.
Thank you. Council comments?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1154.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Further discussion? Second reading. This time, open up for public comment on this agenda, item 13. Hearing none, back to council. Further council? Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Me? Yes, yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. This time, move on to agenda item 14, ordinance 1155. Jim?
Ordinance number 1155, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, updating the 5-year schedule of capital improvements of the city's comprehensive plan as mandated by Florida Statute Section 163.3177, Sub 3, Sub B, providing a conflict clause and severability clause, providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1155.
Thank you. Council?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1155 on first reading.
I have a motion by Councilman Osmer, second by Councilman Breimer.
I have
Further discussion?
Yeah. When we would get ordinances that went through P and Z, we would always get a copy of the minutes where it went through P and Z in the past. And we haven't gotten those. Can we make sure that we get those in the future?
Thank you. Further discussion before we open up for public? Hearing none, open up agenda item 14 for public comment. Hearing none, back to council. Any further discussion? Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 15. At your desk should be a revised page of ordinance number 1156. Jim?
57.
I got
56 and then
56 first.
Oh, okay.
We're on 15. 16.
I don't have that one. Ordinance number 1156, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending the City of Satellite Beach 1998 Comprehensive Plan as amended by revising the future land use map for property located at 506 Cassia Boulevard from CH Church and Synagogue to RLA Residential Low Density, paren 1 to 6 dwelling units per acre, close paren, providing for inclusion of ordinance and revised future land use map in the comprehensive plan, providing for an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1156.
Thank you. Council comments?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1156 on first reading.
I have a motion by Councilman Osmer, second by Councilman Breimer. Further discussion? Hearing none, at this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 15. Hearing none, back to council. Any further? Okay. Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to the agenda item.
He's a running back.
I'm getting there, yes, thanks. Agenda item 16, it is a revised at your desk. General Ordinance 1157.
Ordinance number 1157, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending the city's official zoning map by rezoning real property located at 506 Cassia Boulevard from ITU institutional to R2 single-family residential, amending the zoning map accordingly and providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1157.
Thank you. Council?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 1157. Second.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer. Further discussion on this agenda item? Hearing none, open up for public comment. Hearing no public comment, bring it back to council. Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes.
Mayor, I guess my presentation was brilliant tonight. I don't know.
It was wonderful.
I do
Thank
appreciate
you.
The good news is that the zoning and the comp plan amendment the comp plan amendment will not have to be reviewed by the state, so it can be second reading when you have your next meeting.
Right.
Won't have a 30-day review. With that, I'll be quiet and go away.
Thank you so much for your help. Appreciate it. I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
We will.
I know that. Moving on to agenda item 17, discuss take action on ordinance 1158.
Ordinance number 1158, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, recognizing and making findings regarding the public's longstanding customary use of the dry sand areas of the beaches, creating a new section 26-1 Satellite Beach City Code, regulating dry sand areas of beach, clarifying which uses are permitted and prohibited for members of the public on the dry sand areas, providing for enforcement and penalties for violation, providing authority, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1158.
Motion to approve 1158 on first reading.
Thank you. A motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Osmer.
This is a prime example of, in 2011, when we passed our short-term rental, vacation rental ordinance, doing this now with what's going on in Tallahassee could possibly protect our beaches from being closed off to the public, because that's what's happening in parts of Florida right now, or looking to happen. And this is trying to preempt the state from when they come up with their legislation that we've already got an ordinance on the books. And we benefited by having our vacation rental ordinance on the books in 2011, because they just changed the law this year that anything that was okayed by the state in 2014 went away. But ours was protected from 2011. So this is why we're doing this.
Good job. Other question? This time, open up for agenda item 17 to public comments. Hearing none, back to council.
Good job on pulling this together.
Yep. And actually, our ordinance, our vacation rental ordinance was put in effect way before 2011. I think it was like 2006 or 2007 when it was done.
Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice.
Any further council comments on it? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 18, discuss take action on resolution 998.
Resolution number 998, a resolution of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, supporting Constitution Revision Commission Proposal 11 to allow all electors, regardless of party affiliation, to vote in partisan primary elections, providing an effective date. It's reading of resolution number 998.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 998.
Got a motion by Councilman Gibson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Breimer on this discussion. Thank you. Any further council comments before I open up for public? This time, open up public comments on agenda item 18. Hearing none, back to council. Further comments? None? Lenore?
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Courtney, on this one. Moving on to agenda item 19, discuss take action on Citizens Budget Committee goals and objectives.
Thank you, Mayor. We were wanting to make sure that you are in agreement with the staff on what the goals and objectives of the Budget Committee are. And basically, the goals would include reviewing the revenues and providing suggestions on ways to increase revenues and/or identify possible new revenue sources. Review expenditures and provide suggestions on ways to decrease expenditures. Provide suggestions on spending cuts or service delivery revision, which reduce costs but retain essential city services. And then summarize all recommendations for a presentation by city staff at an upcoming city council meeting.
Thank you. Questions from council?
Do you need a motion on this one, Frank?
I will.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the City Budget Committee goals as outlined by Courtney.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilman Osmer. Discussion?
I think we've all been made aware of, what's been going on by Courtney, and I think this is just an excellent suggestion for us to be able to move, forward with, some different input.
And then we have a meeting tomorrow night, go over stuff, and then, have you been getting applications in already? Have you?
We've gotten one so far.
Okay.
But our Facebook post, two? Okay, so we got two so far. And our Facebook post was boosted today, so we'll hopefully get
Right.
some more out of that one.
So my understanding, if you sit on another board, any board in the city, then you're exempt from this board.
Well, that's your choice. We were just recommending that if, it's a budget advisory committee, it's a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, and so, if you ask other board members who are serving on other boards, that may make them less participatory because of that reason. And then also, we're trying to get some people who really probably haven't participated in city issues yet. And so sometimes that gives a new perspective on things that we may not see because we're all involved.
I know you and I have talked about it, and I like that to get new faces. We have the final vote. I mean, we're going to vote right here. So I'd like to see that, to be fresh look at it, because we always have the final say as a council. So, okay, any further, open up for public comment on agenda item 19.
Quick question. How many people?
What time up? If you like, up to the podium, please.
Larry Whitney, Glenwood Avenue. How many people are going to be on that committee?
To be five. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment still open? Hearing no further public, bring it back to council. Any further council? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Moving on to agenda item 20, proposed workshop on our 21st meeting at 6:30 to interview board applicants, and I'm sure it's for that, hopefully that board, correct? Okay.
I won't be here that night.
Okay. Then moving on to second part of this is the proposed regular meeting, March 21st, agenda. So again, please look at it, and if you need any additions or so forth, please get with Courtney. I think we're going to have some presentations, police department and so forth, so great. Also, April 3rd agenda here for our workshop meeting. Courtney, question, where is that meeting going to be held?
I think the Civic Center.
Civic Center? Okay, great.
They're in the council chamber.
No, well, the reason I'm saying that is this issue might be well attended, and I think
That's why we wanted the largest
we're going to go
facility.
over there. That's why I asked that question, okay? And we'll make a good effort to get all the information out then, so.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And
Okay,
if when we're over there, we can get the sound system, when the police department was doing their thing the other night, was, it was hard to hear in the back. I don't know if Adam can do something. If there's a lot of people in that room, it's going to be tough to hear.
right, thank you. Moving on, let me see here, agenda item 21, appointments to boards. I think we have one reappointment of Mike Chase.
I'd like to talk about the CRA Advisory Board. I looked at the sheet. In fact, I called Grace to look and said, you gave us the 2016 board. Where's the 2017? They haven't met in a year and a half. We're looking at shutting the CRA down. I'm wondering why we're wasting staff time and why we're looking at even keeping this board going at this point. If they haven't met in that long, I don't know why we have this board.
Well, we have a CRA still, and
I realize
until that shuts down, we have money that needs to be spent in projects.
Well, yes, but it's very limited, so, let me talk to the chair and we'll get back to you on that.
And what is legal for this?
There's no legal requirement to have the advisory board.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, you know, we fulfill, especially if there's anything with the county or our agreement, that we're covered. That's all.
Couldn't we make it quarterly like we're
Okay.
talking about making?
At this time, CRA primary, it's still an existing board. Do I have a motion to reinstate Mike Chase?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Brimer, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Further discussion? Lenore?
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Next, approval of minutes, the 7th, February the 21st.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes of February 7th, 2018 workshop meeting and February 21st, 2018 regular meeting as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Osmer, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Further discussion? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Here, yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro? Yes. Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer? Yes. Mayor Patino?
Yes.
Mayor, did you want me to give my report or no?
Yeah, we still
Have a
haven't done that,
written-
so we haven't gone through
You have a written
council comments or
report.
city attorney or city manager report yet.
Sorry, we did get stuck on that. I apologize. Hand me my book, please, so I can-
I can just submit it written, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure that
Let me just,
you all knew that.
is there anything, Courtney, on that you need to tell
I
us?
just need to correct the April, it says April 6th for the Civic Center Utility Workshop.
It's
It's April 3rd.
Okay.
And then also, we have a cornhole tournament for our Relay for Life this weekend on March 11th, from 12:30 to 5 at Pelican Beach Park. So of course, you know, Chief Pearson wants to win that. It'd be great if we could make sure he doesn't.
Okay.
And then, I wanted to bring to your attention that the Brevard County Board of Commissioners on February 20th adopted a resolution supporting the Florida House Bill 6039 and Senate Bill 1014, which amends the Florida statutes to delete the preemption of home rule to allow municipalities to regulate efforts for basically plastic bags. So they basically are supporting a bill to end the preemption for plastic bag bans. So I thought that was interesting that came out of the county.
Thank you.
Ellen,
Jim,
yeah.
moving on to, I'm going to work back, city attorney's report.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Any city council comments?
I attended the pension board meeting on the 22nd. I went to Frank Wilkins' funeral. He was a longtime volunteer in our city. He sat on a couple of different boards over the years. I also went to the police presentation on the 28th, and I thought that was a great job that they did on active shooters. And I went to the beautification board meeting on the 2nd. And the 17th is the garden fair, and April 22nd is Earth Day at the Schechter Center. And I also went to the Satellite High Track opening that day, too.
Okay. Any further? Hearing no further. Any further business before council?
We're here tomorrow night at 7?
7 tomorrow night here.
I'm going to be late.
Already?
I'm just telling you ahead of time this time.
What's new?
That's different than what?
Like, I almost missed
Hearing
the
no,
meeting.
hearing no further business, meeting's adjourned.
Important.